All right, so let's go over this exercise quickly. I've already filled these out, so we're just going to talk about the answers. Our choices for levels of measurement were nominal, ordinal, or scale. I'm going to shoot this guy down here and say both of these are scale so we can understand a little bit more clearly. So, our first question here is ID. This is an ID number in either in like we could say that this particular cell is cell 4A, right? That's an ID, or an ID number in like participants in your research. We know that's nominal because it's just a label. If we had like participant 75, that doesn't hold any value. It doesn't matter to us. It's just a label, and you're using it to keep track of people. Gender, we've already talked about gender and how this is a nominal variable because it's a label with no order and we can't rank it. Let's see, age. We know this is a scale variable. Remember how we talked about interval variables are kind of like thermometers. We know that we can measure the difference between each interval, and we know that, it's the same. So age, we know that the distance between years is measured, so we can say that comfortably that that's a scale a variable. Program, I think this is referring to like if someone's categorized into like family group or career group or whatever. Again, that's a label with no natural order, so that's a nominal variable. Admission date, again, we've talked about dates when we talked about age. So similar here, the distance between X dates, days, months, weeks, whatever, that is measurable. We know what the distance is. We know it's consistent when we talk about that concept of time. So this is a scale. This is a scale level. GPA, pretest, aptitude test, and final exam can all be grouped together. You could argue that these are either scale or ordinal levels. I would argue that they're scale because the distance between two scores can be calculated and it has meaning, and 0 has a meaningful value in this context. If your final exam score was 0, then we would know that you didn't answer any questions, and so you just didn't take the exam. So the 0 means something. It has meaning. The justification for classifying any of these as ordinal comes. So when we talk about that, remember we talked about how we're talking about a scale. There's like a scale of numbers, but the difference between them, the difference between the integers is abstract. So we could say that these are ordinal because difference between two scores doesn't have any meaning because scores are based on a mix of questions. They're mixed about based on a mix of difficult and easy questions. And we could also argue and say that the point of 0 doesn't hold value if we're saying it's ordinal. The 0 point doesn't hold value because it doesn't literally mean a lack of knowledge. But again, I would argue that they're scale. That's just me personally. You can find more information in another video in the Word document instructions in this module for this assignment. But we will continue moving on with our lessons.